We are on mileswmathis.com. I was commenting on some YouTube videos concerning Charles Manson, Helter Skelter, the Tate LaBianca murders. Now, I just previously listened to one theory of a certain writer pushing forth the idea that the Tate LaBianca murders were a botched robbery. That these shadowy figures, like Charles Manson and his followers, like to rob people of drugs. Okay, that's plausible. I mean, people, they do that to this day, all the time. Most of the home invasions you hear about are the results of, including police, someone thinking someone has drugs, they go in to take what they have to cut out the cost of upstarting their little drug business. But anyway, there's these other arguments out there that say Charles Manson, Helter Skelter, Tate LaBianca murders were fake. So I was sent to this website. Now, I'd heard about this while listening to the other videos. And basically this guy is I guess an artist by trade. And he's also into science. He paints better than I color with crayons. But he also writes. And I believe it was 2000. I'm gonna forget when it was. I was gonna say 2009. I've actually forgot when it was. It's probably gonna be 2015. Here we go. He has a PDF file called Tate. I read most of this the other day, skimmed through some parts because I got his point. There's Sharon and the Fearless Vampire Killers. I didn't really like that movie. It's sort of like a parody of horror movies, but it's not really a real good one. It's rather stiff. After all, Roman Polanski directed it, I believe, and he is French. If you ever watched a French horror movie, they tend to be rather stiff. Like Jean Rollin, his movies, the actors are very slow and prodding. But basically, he's going through all different points of the Tate LaBianca murders and raising red flags all over the place. Scroll down. Like, there's all sorts of background things he's talking about with Sharon Tate's father. This is a naval intelligence officer. Now he started dressing up like a hippie. That sometimes clues you into certain things. I'm not going to read all this out loud, but he just talks about just these people. But I mostly want to focus on the actual murders. He spends a lot of time talking about all the connections, similar to Dave McGowan's Inside Laurel Canyon. Well, we had scenes inside Laurel Canyon. Here we have Sharon Tate's father. Here he is looking conservative or so. And here he is, kind of like the guy from Mamas and the Paupers. Really looks like a beatnik type of person here with the beard, and here he is getting arrested, I guess, and here he is with his wife. And there he is later on with a shaved head. And there is everyone's favorite Munchkin. He said he told Diane Soy he was, what did he say? 5'6". Does he look like 5'6" there? He looks like he's probably 5'2" tops. Because he is wearing boots. And he talks about the movie Ranch, the Spawn movie Ranch, how it was... He's similar, like I said, he's similar to Dave McGowan's sort of humor. You know that, how can you call it? Bittersweet or tot-like humor. Where they mock certain situations, such as this Spawn Ranch, all the surrounding lots and land is being bought up by a big corporation and a developer, whatever, and he won't sell. He won't sell, but he's going to allow all these hippies to live on his land. He's legally blind, and Squeaky Fromm gets her name from banging him. And he's like 180 years old. He's one of those vampires. Makes mention of the girls and how they look. And they look like they're supposed to belong there. And sort of things along those lines. They do seem quite weird. And Charles Watson, just in this picture right here, he looks military. He looks like the type of person that would be military during that time. And he talks about I noticed years and years ago when I was a kid watching this, I was like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, I remember this cop right here, and I was like, she's a little, she looks a little too hot for a cop or something. Just the way, he's pointing out her waistline and stuff, and the curves. She doesn't look like the part. Unless it's Dragnet or something. Anyway, it's very weird when they came in dressed like this. That they were going to Munchkin Land. Well, they were run by a Munchkin, supposedly. Like this one. Look at her hair. I mean, I just don't picture that. I picture them to be a little more butch. So they can have their way with supposedly very uppity young girls. And it goes through the whole Bugliosi, and the trial. I'm refreshing my memory. I'm trying to remember some of the things I was going to say. Was that Dan Haggerty in the back? They used him in another movie, didn't they? It was called Easy Rider. Is that Dan Haggerty? I have no idea. I don't even know if it says it. Like, he points out this video. Go watch this video. And I watched this video. And it is fake. I can say it right now. Annie Oakley right here. they all got their hair cut up like they have another gig as a nun, and they're sporting rifles, knives, and basically making wisecracks like Clint Eastwood or whatever. Come and get me, make my day, basically. And it is very fake. It's unbelievable. It definitely looks like they were actresses, not. It was staged. Yeah, I mean, it does not pass the acid test. He talks about the Tate House. This is the living room. I'm assuming that is, Roman Polanski. On the bed, and he starts to critique the furniture, and I agree with him right here. This picture, it looks like Roman Polanski aged about 30 years. He does not look like that picture above. He talks about someone saw Charles Manson driving around with some lady in a Ferrari. He was driving. Where did he get a Ferrari if he's just this garbage picking Jesus Christ superstar homeless looking person? And he points out some of the things. He misses some things. These, I forget, on one of those inside Laurel Canyon discussion boards I used to belong to, till someone didn't understand how I talk, and I quit it. We had a long discussion about these posters. I can't remember exactly what they meant, but they were hippie posters. Some sort of a thing connected with a movie or something. I forget the name of the movie. Some sort of spoof movie or something. But he points out, like, the furnishings. Would a rich director live like this? Almost looks like looks like Ralph Hurley set it up. Ralph Hurley. Would a Frenchman have a what do you call it, American flag draped over his dirty couch? And look at the fireplace. He didn't point this out, but this fireplace has not been polished. No, you clean this up. This is all dirty. This should look a little shinier. It's very sloppy too. I mean, it just looks like there's a lot of extra mortar going on there. It does not look like the type of thing that a rich person would accept. I know if I was as successful as him then, I would not accept a fireplace like that. I had the mason right back there, tell him to take it back down. But then again, this house was already built. And this is it's the outside of the house. That's the way it looked like in the 40s, which looks much better, cleaner. Yeah, I agree with him when he talks about, it just looks cheap. It's like a cheap rug, and looks like it was set up. I can agree with him right there. I mean, this just looks like, I don't know, this looks like someone blue collar set this up. Not someone that was dreaming about nice things. Or not dreaming about them. Knowing what to get, who to get it from. And I agree again. I think he's talking about these photographs. This photograph being fake, possibly, or taken way after the fact, because this is not the same person. Different age. He does not look like that. If that was more high quality, you could even critique it even more. This rug is awful looking. I agree with him. This dirt. Look at this dirty couch. This is a hippie's couch. This is taken out of a trash. I totally agree with this assessment that this is a setup. Bloodstains and this. Just this. Not wall to wall. There's no braiding or whatever you call it on the edge of this rug. It looks very cheap. And he talks about how there was luggage there, and that explains how Sharon was getting all ready to go someplace, meaning that he doesn't believe she was killed, and we'll get to that very soon. As it says right here, Sharon Tate is still alive. That's one of her friends. Claiming to have an ongoing affair with Sharon Tate in 1969. Yeah, they're in an audience. This is the guy, what's his name? Ian Quarria, who was friends with them, and he was in Fearless Vampire Killers with Polanski. He pretty much disappeared right after this whole thing. Tate LaBianca murders, Helter Skelter. He disappears from the movie industry. Gets busted a couple times trying to pick up young girls. I mean really young girls. Like 5-year-olds, 9-year-olds or something. He tried to purchase one in a supermarket. And he was banned from going near anyone under 17 years old. Whatever it was, under 16. Anyone under 16 he was banned from. He just disappears. There's Peter Sellers right there. There's Sharon Tate. And he likes to point out this picture that I do Photoshop, and then I play around with photos and haven't really analyzed this myself. I mean, he thinks the dog on the shoulder is fake. It's too small of a photograph for me to see right here to look for certain things. If it was somehow, before there was Photoshop and they had to layer things, cut things out, and how, you know, it seems like she's in the shadows and her legs are illuminated, or the right here is illuminated and she's a little in the shadow. Here, I can tell you one thing. I had this suspicion because of her other sisters, well, supposed other sisters. You could tell she was going to be steadily gaining weight. I can tell you that much. If she lived, based on the physique, if you were looking for her today, she would look nothing like this. She would be overweight. I can just tell she's carrying a lot of fat, and she's, how old is she here? 22 or something? Get 22 and you look like that, I'd say it's going to get progressively worse. It does for all of us. We all get lazier and we gain some weight usually, but if you're starting off that early, I know she was probably pregnant, she had a baby or something, I don't know, this is a paternity thing or some maternity thing, but still, you can just tell. You can, like, what's his name from the Breakfast Club, he said Claire was pushing maximum density, and this guy Miles here. Mr. Mathis, he likes to use references like that to the Breakfast Club that, some of these Manson girls look more like Claire. And I agree with them. And Roman Polanski, he's older than her, but based on those legs, I can clearly say, he's not an athlete. He is not engaged in any physical activity. Okay. There's going to be mention of the hidden mountain laboratory that's overlooking all that. There's one thing here about their critiquing the cops here. Some are dressed in, yes, different types of uniform, mismatched uniforms, and that they might be military. There's way more in here. There's a lot. He does a lot of research. He doesn't go totally to book range. This is a long article. Like some of these right here. These do not look like cops. Like sheriff sewn on the back of his shirt. Chips, California Highway Patrol. Dope, fornication, and public nudity. Just let go. Okay, now this is the juicy part. And I've never really looked at these photos. I've seen them over the years. I never really paid too much attention. Now that people are drawing attention, they do look kind of weird. In this one, one of the photographs here has been doctored in some way to make look redder, but just a regular photograph. The smile on her face. What is that? And these supposed to be knife wounds. And what does she need a pillow for? I didn't know what she needs a pillow for. And also, she's against the wall. You see that white? That's the wall of someplace at the crime scene, because you'd see the dirty rug now has blood on it. This is how she was found. There's a white wall over there. You don't, from that position, if that's the way she was found by police, they're not going to move that until they've spent many, many hours taking photographs, analyzing everything, forensic work with fingerprints. And as he points out, why does this one have a towel over the face? Unless that's not the person. Or as he points out, Miles, that the person got too tired sitting there like that, so they had someone else sit there for them. Cut. Extra. Bring the extra in. Yeah. And he's pointing out some other things about how limbs, there's all sorts of mortises and where the limbs and all the things that happen. I'm not an expert on this, but after someone dies, There's all sorts of things that happen. And people in pathology use those things to reconstruct how they died, when they died, based on these things. He talks about all sorts of ones, about, if there's like some sort of, an impact to the vessels or whatever, how they'll change color on the skin afterwards, like a bruise or whatever, but different. And how if someone dies in a certain way, their limbs might rise up. Her leg might just rise up as rigor mortis sets in. And rigor mortis does set in. He's talking about livor mortis, either peaks at about 12 hours. But, I've seen what happens to a body after it's died, in how it gets stiff, and it happens well within 12 hours. But look, she's against the wall there in that photograph. That is a wall. That is a rug. That is a pillow. This is a couch. A dirty couch. This is a dirty girl in front of the couch. This is a dirty girl who got tired, so that someone gave her a pillow. How many dead girls need pillows? I'm not going to go into everything. I'll post this link and you can read about it. Yeah, their neck looks a little thin. Yeah. This is an autopsy picture, supposedly. And it looks like the head was added on. You can see right here, the neck is not that thin. Well, it's being obscured by the rope, but I don't know, would they clean up the face? And it goes into the wounds. He thinks they're shotgun wounds to this person. And here's a picture of her pregnant. Keep in mind, if you assume she was killed, which most people do, you can see that she is very pregnant and she's about to give birth. Her due date is like 9 days. It says right here, 9 days. And he points out, why is the picture quality so good in the first photo but so poor in the second? Same day, same body, same camera. What happened? Total eclipse of the sun? Passing comet? Yeah. One reason you put bad photos or whatever is to obscure certain things. It's one of the reasons, like a horror movie, for example, is shot in dim situations, or shot in the daytime with blue light, so they can then bring the color down and the brightness down to make it look like night. And horror movie is one of the sort of genres you can get away with quite a lot, because you can obscure lots of what you're seeing. But I agree, there's definitely peculiarities with this crime scene where I don't know what he's saying right here, but her head is different than there, I think. and obviously different from there. And this person looks a little weird. It looks like this. Looks like it was. His clothes look like someone was tie-dyeing him. Because it looks like he has way too much blood everywhere. Like, spread around and... I don't know. But there's some theorizations about like her other sister and how these people don't look even close to the same. This is supposedly all three sisters. She looks a little too white in the front here. Here they are again. I don't even think they look alike. Other sister. He analyzes some other things, but what I'm always going to come back to is that Diane Sawyer interview. And how it ended. How Charles Manson basically was shooting the breeze with her afterwards. Now, they could have invented another sister that didn't exist. Then just Sharon, assumes that role again. Or maybe her name was never Sharon. And they killed off Sharon. Not literally. They let her, she just went back to her real name. You could go any way with it, but there's lots of things pointed out about the Social Security index. Well, she's not showing up on there, so... But read the story. Talks about the air. Talks about Charles Manson. Talks about the dress code in prison. You're not allowed to have beards or long hair. And how he always has long hair, it seems, in beards. In hippie shirts and sunglasses, and he's even got a ring. Do you have rings in prison? Don't they take away all that stuff? I didn't get so far as this. But what if? What if the whole thing was fake? How do you actually prove it? Well, I told one guy he needs to go get a shovel. Well, you need to go meet up with these people who have supposedly talked to Charles Manson. There's Nicholas Schreck, whose wife is Anton LaVey's daughter. There is Diane Sawyer. What's his name? Snyder, he's dead. Raul Rivera. I'm sure he's approachable. Who else has interviewed him? There's probably others. There's many interviews I've seen. I've definitely seen all of them over the years. his parole officers. I mean, yeah, parole meetings. Whoever's at that parole thing. There are people who knew him. There are people in prison. Now, they could convince people in the prison population that he still exists, assuming he's not really a prisoner, that they would see him. They would just bring him in every once in a while. But there's a lot of talk that he's not in the general population. He's in protective custody. Who knows? Who really knows about this whole thing? I tell you one thing, they've been throwing it down at us too much over the years. They've never spent this much time on Jeffrey Dahmer. They never spent this much time on any of the so-called serial killers. They don't spend this much time on Jack the Ripper. They don't spend time on other people who are doing mass murders, such as presidents, politicians, and they're just supported for it. And the whole Manson thing is, we gotta save the water, the trees, and blah, blah, blah. I agree with some of the assessment that it's to make people who actually believe in that look bad. Look like kooks. Anyone who wants to save the water, the trees, has got to be insane. They got to be like Charles Manson. I don't think Charles Manson is insane. That Diane Sawyer interview, the way it ends, he's an actor. He's not even a good actor. He's just acting up like Vito Pelucas. Manson and the Freakers. But what really happened? Is it just to stamp out the 60s for good? It's quite possible. Because slowly after that, you go into another... It takes a while to get rid of everything. The 70s married the 60s in many ways. The late 60s, I mean. All the way in until the late 70s. Then you got... I don't know. It starts to change. Really starts to change in 1980. And... then by the time you go into the 90s, you go from, you think like Reagan was some sort of warmonger, and then it just increases under the next presidents, Bush Sr. But then he pulls back from Iraq. He doesn't do the whole thing. And his son, I used to say the difference between, assuming Charles Manson's a serial killer, the difference between Charles Manson and Junior Bush is Junior Bush was more prolific than Obama. Look at the people Obama gives weapons to and says Americans shouldn't have any weapons. And how many people he's killed. He even brags about killing people using drones. To me, it makes more sense to think the whole thing was fake. Just everything's fake. Look what just happened today in Turkey. Some Russian ambassador to Turkey was at an art gallery, and some Turk that looked like Mr. Bean took out a gun and shot him in the back about 15 times or so. He's on the ground. The guy is yelling Allah Akbar, Allah Saladbar, and he's eventually killed. You don't see it on camera. Turkish special ops, but I'm seeing the guy that got shot, and there's no blood. I'm not seeing the blood pool out like I see when some cop shoots some black guy in the middle of the street 50 times, or whatever, how many times, and there's a huge pool of blood. You know those deaths are real. But where was the blood? See, I think everything is staged. Always ask yourself, why are they telling you this? Why are they telling me this person got killed? This happened? Why are they telling me this? Are they telling me anything I really should know? Charles Manson, actor.